Imagine a company that, you know, barely even existed 2 years ago, and suddenly it's being valued higher than some of the most established household name Fortune 500 companies in the entire world.
Oh, yeah. It's wild.
Right. I mean, I'm talking about massive organizations here, companies with century-old supply chains, huge global real estate footprints, hundreds of thousands of employees.
Love it.
Yeah, all of it. And suddenly, they are totally eclipsed by a startup. A startup with no physical factories, no legacy infrastructure, just, a tightly knit engineering team and a fundamentally different philosophy about how human beings should interface with machines.
It really forces a complete recalibration of how we measure corporate momentum. I mean, we're looking at a scenario where the physical moats that used to define market dominance, they're just being entirely bypassed by the sheer velocity of software automation.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are soaring through a massive stack of recent reporting today. We've got stuff from TechCrunch, CNBC, and
A
Bloomberg.
lot of material to get through.
Oh, tons. And all of them are dissecting what they're calling the multi-billion-dollar rise of cursor AI. So our mission today is to unpack the story of Anysphere, right? That's the company behind this AI code editor.
Right, Anysphere.
We're going to examine the staggering financial projections. We'll tear apart the underlying technology that's driving this whole market frenzy and really try to figure out what this means for the broader software development landscape. Because, I mean, if these sources are accurate, we're witnessing a tectonic shift in how code is actually written and maintained.
And that tectonic shift is, well, it's exactly why this warrants such a close look. Because this isn't just another story about some trendy developer tool catching a momentary wave of hype.
Right, we see this all the time.
Exactly. This is different. It's a leading indicator that the fundamental asymmetry of software engineering is collapsing.
Asymmetry. How do you mean?
Well, historically, humans have had to carefully, painstakingly translate their intent into the rigid syntax of machines. That barrier is what's collapsing here.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand the scale of that collapse, we have to look at the numbers that are driving these headlines. Cursor is currently in discussions for a multi-billion-dollar investment round.
Which is huge on its own.
Huge, but the projected valuation is exceeding $50 billion.
Yeah, 50 billion.
But here is the data point that, for me, requires some real scrutiny. This $50 billion mark, it's nearly double the valuation they were assigned just 6 months ago.
Right.
And according to Bloomberg, this round is heavily oversubscribed before the final terms are even locked in.
That 6-month doubling is the metric that really has the entire venture capital space on high alert right now.
It has to, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, reaching a $50 billion valuation organically, that's usually a multi-decade achievement for a traditional enterprise.
Decades.
Yeah, decades. So to double a $25 billion valuation in roughly, 180 days, that indicates an acceleration curve that just defies standard financial gravity.
I've been trying to find a parallel for that kind of velocity. It's essentially like buying a house in a really volatile market, right? You get the keys, and before you've even had a chance to unpack your boxes in the living room, the property appraises for double what you paid.
That's a pretty good way to look at it.
But I have to push back here a little bit, because we have seen this movie before in tech.
Oh, for sure.
We saw it with the Web3 boom. We saw it with early VR hardware. People lose their minds. So is this just standard, frothy Silicon Valley hype? I mean, does an oversubscribed round at a $50 billion scale actually reflect fundamental business reality? Or does it point to massive institutional FOMO, fear of missing out, where investors are just terrified of not having a seat at the AI table?
It's crucial to test that assumption, it really is. Because the graveyard of tech startups is basically paved with oversubscribed rounds that completely lacked underlying fundamentals. But we need to define what oversubscribed means in this specific context. It means there's literally more investor money trying to force its way into this deal than the company's actually willing to take.
They're turning away billionaires.
Yes. But an oversubscribed round at this specific tier, where you have tier 1 funds trying to deploy billions of dollars into a single asset and being told no, that requires a totally different level of conviction.
So it's not just hype at that level.
No, at $50 billion, you are no longer investing on pure speculative narrative. You just aren't. You are investing on revenue velocity and retention metrics.
Hard data.
Exactly. The institutional investors driving this round, they've looked at the proprietary telemetry, they've seen the adoption curves deep within these massive enterprise engineering teams.
And what did they decide?
They've collectively decided that the risk of missing the category winner in AI-assisted development is mathematically far greater than the risk of balling in at what appears to be an astronomical multiple.
Okay, which means we really need to get into the mechanics of the product itself. Because investors don't just park billions of dollars in a tool unless it fundamentally alters a high-value workflow.
Right, the product has to actually deliver.
So let's look at the engine under the hood here. According to the TechCrunch reporting, Anysphere launched Cursor in 2023, and they built it as an AI-first fork of Visual Studio Code.
Which is a brilliant strategic move.
We'll get to that in a second, yeah. They are basically weaving large language models directly into the developer workflow. The capabilities listed in the sources include, let's say, auto-completing complex code blocks, generating entire functional modules, debugging active errors, and refactoring massive code bases using natural language.
That last one is the kicker.
Yeah. And the sources make a very sharp distinction here. They say Cursor operates as a collaborative tool, which is a distinct departure from earlier AI assistants that function merely as suggestion engines.
What's fascinating here is how that architectural choice, the decision to fork the code, completely enables that shift from suggestion to collaboration.
Yeah. By fork, you mean taking the existing open source code for Visual Studio Code and building their own version on top of it, right?
Exactly. By forking VS Code, they completely bypass the steepest barrier to developer adoption, which is environment friction. Developers already love VS Code. They practically live in it.
So they didn't have to convince anyone to learn a whole new interface.
Precisely. But here's where it gets really interesting regarding that collaborative tool distinction. Because the difference between a suggestion engine and a collaborative partner completely changes the psychology of the workflow.
Totally. The earlier AI coding tools, the ones that were just sort of bolted onto existing editors, they always felt to me like having a highly aggressive autocorrect. Or worse, like an annoying backseat driver.
Oh, that is the perfect analogy.
Right. You're trying to write a specific sorting algorithm, and the AI just keeps popping up with ghost text, interrupting your flow, guessing your next move. And it usually gets the context slightly wrong.
Yeah, it becomes a distraction.
Yeah, you have to constantly stop, evaluate its suggestion, reject it, delete it, and keep typing. It's fundamentally passive, but it's also frequently disruptive.
That was exactly the problem with those initial implementations.
Mm-hmm.
It required developers to maintain two parallel mental models at the same time. You had your own architectural intent in your head, and then you had the constant low-level cognitive load of reviewing the AI's random guesses.
It's exhausting, but Cursor's approach, this whole collaborative tool framework, it feels much more like having a savant-level junior developer sitting directly at your keyboard with you.
Right.
You don't have to manage their syntax line by line. You just turn to them and dictate the high-level logic. You say, we need to build a new authentication middleware. It has to check against the specific Redis cache, implement a rate limiter, and fail open if the cache drops.
You give the architectural command.
Exactly. And while you're conceptualizing the next step, this collaborative partner is already churning through all the boilerplate, wiring up the dependencies, handling the syntax natively. You are operating as the systems architect, and the AI is just this incredibly fast line cook.
I love that. The line cook analogy perfectly captures the shift in cognitive load and the technical reality of how they achieve that savant-level execution. It's deeply tied to how they handle context.
Because context is everything for an LLM.
It is everything. You mentioned the capability to refactor entire code bases using natural language earlier.
Yeah.
To understand why that is a genuine breakthrough, we have to look beyond basic prompt and response. Because an enterprise code base isn't just a single file.
You're not even close.
Right, it's a sprawling, interconnected web of hundreds of thousands of lines of code. It has deeply nested dependencies, undocumented legacy logic that someone wrote 5 years ago and then left the company.
The classic spaghetti code. Sorry. If I drop a 100,000-line repository into a standard public LLM interface like ChatGPT and just say, update the database routing, the model is going to hallucinate wildly.
It'll just break.
Because the context window will either overflow or it will completely lose the thread of how a change in file A breaks a hidden dependency over in file Z.
Precisely. That is the barrier Anysphere had to solve. And they solved it by deeply integrating really sophisticated retrieval augmented generation. We call it RAG.
RAG, right.
They integrated RAG and local vector indexing directly into the editor's core.
Okay, wait, break that down for me. What does that actually look like when I type a prompt?
Sure. So when you ask Cursor to refactor a code base in plain English, it isn't just blindly pasting your code into an LLM. It is dynamically parsing the abstract syntax tree of your entire repository.
The abstract syntax tree.
Think of it as a structural map of everything your code does and how every single piece connects to every other piece. It understands the semantic relationships between all your functions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it selectively retrieves only the relevant files for your specific request. It bundles them with the precise error traces. And it feeds a highly optimized, context-rich prompt to the model.
So it filters out all the noise before the AI even sees it.
Exactly. And then it takes the model's output and surgically applies the differences across multiple files simultaneously.
So it's essentially acting as this highly intelligent routing layer, sitting between the raw capability of the LLM and the local reality of the developer's machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because it's a native fork of VS Code, it has full, unencumbered access to your local machine. It has access to the file system, the terminal, the compiler.
Which a web-based AI doesn't have.
Right. It can write the refactored code, run the local test suite, read the failure logs in the terminal if it breaks, and then automatically loop back to the LLM to fix the errors it just created.
All on its own.
All before the human developer even has to intervene. That autonomous loop is really what separates a localized suggestion engine from a true workflow-integrated collaborative tool.
Which totally explains why engineers are adopting it so aggressively. I mean, if you can collapse a brutal multi-week refactoring sprint into a 3-hour guided session, the productivity leverage is just undeniable.
It's massive.
But, and here's where we have to pivot to the business side. User adoption doesn't automatically equal enterprise revenue.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Having a fiercely loyal user base is great, but to justify a $50 billion valuation, you need massive, predictable, recurring revenue from the biggest companies on Earth.
And this brings us to the financial projections that are truly shaking the enterprise software landscape right now.
The numbers from the CNBC and Bloomberg reports are just staggering. Anysphere is projecting an annualized revenue run rate of more than $6 billion by the end of 2026.
$6 billion.
Yeah. And the sources note that this projection represents at least a tripling of revenue over a period of approximately 10 months.
Which is just unheard of.
Right. So what does this all mean for standard business growth? If we look at the historical data for enterprise software as a service, how unprecedented is it to actually triple a revenue base of that magnitude in under a year?
It's an anomaly of the highest order. It fundamentally breaks the known speed limits of enterprise B2B sales.
Why is that?
Well, to understand why, we have to look at the friction that's inherently built into selling anything to massive corporations.
I'm really glad you brought up friction because this is where I start to get skeptical. I understand viral consumer growth, like a social media app catching fire. But you can't just run a clever marketing campaign and suddenly get a Fortune 500 bank to deploy a brand new code editor across 5,000 engineers overnight.
You're entirely right to be skeptical. The standard enterprise procurement cycle is a grueling labyrinth.
It's a nightmare.
It really is. A chief technology officer might absolutely love a new tool, but before they can actually deploy it, it has to survive months of bureaucratic purgatory.
Oh yeah, budget committees.
Budget committees, legal reviews, and most critically, the Chief Information Security Officer, the CSO.
Right, the person whose entire job is to say no to things that might be risky.
Exactly. And when we were talking about an AI tool that requires direct access to a company's proprietary source code, which is usually their most guarded intellectual property, the security review alone usually takes 6 to 9 months.
Because they're terrified of data leaks.
CISOs demand ironclad guarantees. They need to know that their proprietary algorithms aren't being quietly siphoned off to train the next iteration of some public LLM.
Right, I mean, a major hedge fund isn't going to let an AI read its high-frequency trading algorithms if there's even a fraction of a percent chance that data leaks back to the model provider.
Exactly. So for Cursor to project a tripling of revenue to $6 billion in roughly 10 months, it means they have systematically dismantled that enterprise friction.
How do you even do that?
Well, it implies two critical realities. First, Anysphere has clearly successfully built and audited a highly sophisticated enterprise-grade privacy architecture.
They had to.
Right. They are likely offering zero data retention guarantees, localized inference options, and SOC2 compliance at a speed that is satisfying even the most paranoid CISOs in the Fortune 500.
So they've effectively neutralized the security veto.
They had to.
Yeah.
But the second reality is even more impactful.
What's that?
The return on investment equation has become so overwhelming that executive boards are overriding their own bureaucratic delays.
Ah, wow. Really?
Think about it. If a CTO realizes that their engineering department is moving 40% slower than a direct competitor who has fully deployed AI-assisted collaboration.
It ceases to be a debate about software budgeting.
Exactly. It becomes an existential threat to the company's entire product roadmap. The urgency to deploy Cursor is bypassing that standard 9-month sales cycle because the cost of remaining on legacy manual workflows has become entirely unacceptable.
That framing completely shifts the perspective for me. It's not that these corporations are eager to buy new software. Everyone hates buying new enterprise software.
Nobody likes it.
Right. It's that they are terrified of being outpaced by a faster automated competitor. It's an arms race. And Anysphere is currently supplying the most advanced capabilities in that race.
Precisely.
But to secure those massive enterprise contracts, a startup needs more than just a great product. They need the absolute highest tier of market validation to assure these risk-averse legacy corporations that they are a safe, stable bet.
Which is precisely why the architecture of this specific funding round is so critical to the story. The specific entities writing these billion-dollar checks, they serve as a market-wide de-risking mechanism.
So let's run down the cap table from the reporting. We have returning investors like Thrive Capital, and Andreessen Horowitz, or A16Z, is expected to lead this new deal.
Huge names.
Huge. Then we have strategic participation from Battery Ventures and, notably, Nvidia.
Right.
The sources draw a very specific conclusion from this alignment. They say AI-assisted software development is no longer viewed as just a feature, but as a distinct market category. And Cursor is pulling ahead as an independent startup, competing directly with the heavyweights.
It's a huge distinction.
But here's where I struggle with the narrative. Microsoft owns GitHub, and they have GitHub Copilot deeply integrated into VS Code already.
They do.
And Google has Gemini embedded in their development suites. So why is an independent 2-year-old startup pulling ahead of the companies that practically own the digital infrastructure of the planet?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of technology history, the incumbent's dilemma becomes very clear here.
The incumbent's dilemma.
Yeah. The giants, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, they are structurally incentivized to protect their existing ecosystems. That's where the money comes from.
Sure.
So when generative AI emerged, their initial instinct was additive. They viewed AI as a feature to be bolted on to their legacy products. They essentially took their existing code editors and just slapped the chat window on the sidebar.
They treated it like adding a new spell checker to Microsoft Word.
That's a great way to look at it. It was a compromise between preserving their legacy interface and adopting the new capability.
But Anysphere didn't have that baggage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anysphere didn't have a legacy ecosystem to protect. They recognized that generative AI isn't just a feature. It is a foundational paradigm shift that demands a ground-up reimagining of the interface.
They could start from scratch.
By committing fully to a new market category, they were able to build a user experience where the AI isn't just a sidebar widget, but the core orchestrator of the entire integrated development environment.
I see your point. The incumbents are trying to retrofit a combustion engine car with an electric drivetrain, while Anysphere just built a Tesla from scratch using the familiar steering wheel of VS Code.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. And that structural advantage is what Andreessen Horowitz is heavily betting on. A16Z is famously aggressive when they identify a true category creator.
They go all in.
They do. So when they lead around at a $50 billion valuation, they are effectively sending a broadcast to the entire enterprise software market saying, the war for the developer desktop is over, and Cursor won.
Wow. But the true strategic masterstroke in this round, at least to me, is Nvidia's participation.
Oh, absolutely.
I really want to spend some time on Nvidia. Because they aren't a software company. They design the silicon, they build the GPUs that train and run all these models.
Right.
So why are they taking a strategic stake in a code editor?
Because Nvidia understands that their hardware dominance requires an ecosystem of software that aggressively consumes compute. They need people using their chips.
Right.
But for Anysphere, having Nvidia on the cap table is a massive asymmetrical advantage. I often see people use that tired cliche that Nvidia is selling the shovels for the gold rush.
I've heard that a million times.
Right. But in this context, that analogy completely fails to capture the technical reality of what's happening.
Let's retire the shovel analogy then. What does this strategic partnership actually look like under the hood?
Think of it more like high-frequency algorithmic trading on Wall Street.
Okay.
In high-frequency trading, firms will spend hundreds of millions of dollars to co-locate their servers right next to the stock exchange's routing engine, just to shave a few milliseconds off their transaction times.
because speed is literally money in that game.
Exactly. In the AI space, inference latency, which is the time it takes for the model to process your code and return an output, is the ultimate bottleneck.
It has to be fast.
It has to be instant.
Yeah.
A collaborative coding tool only feels like magic if it operates at the speed of human thought. If a developer has to wait 5 seconds for the AI to generate a function, the flow state is totally broken.
They'll just type it themselves.
Exactly. So Nvidia isn't just giving them capital.
They are giving them proximity to the metal.
Precisely. As a strategic partner, Nvidia is likely providing Anysphere with prioritized access to their most advanced GPU clusters, the H100s, and the upcoming Blackwell architectures.
The good stuff.
The very best stuff. They're likely offering direct engineering support to optimize Anysphere's routing models using Nvidia's proprietary TensorArt acceleration libraries.
And what does that actually do for the user?
It means Cursor can run more complex context windows, execute much faster diffs across the codebase, and provide a significantly lower latency experience than a competitor who is just renting standard compute off a public cloud.
Like AWS or Azure.
Right. It creates an infrastructure moat that is incredibly difficult for other startups to replicate.
That makes the $50 billion valuation look significantly more defensible, honestly. They aren't just selling a slick user interface. They have the absolute apex predator of hardware infrastructure actively optimizing their backend.
Exactly.
So with that kind of backing, a validated market category, and massive enterprise demand, the reporting gives us a clear look at their immediate roadmap.
And this is where the implications extend far, far beyond just writing code on a laptop.
Yeah, according to the sources, over the next 3 to 6 months, Anysphere is aggressively expanding its enterprise contracts. But the key detail here is that they are preparing to announce deeper integrations with development platforms and cloud providers.
This is huge.
It is. If you are a listener managing an engineering team right now or evaluating tech investments, this specific time frame is critical. But I want to get granular here. Right now, Cursor is incredibly powerful, but it still basically lives on the developer's local machine.
Yes.
What do these deeper cloud integrations actually look like in practice?
This raises a really important question about where the boundaries of programming actually stop. Currently, as you said, Cursor handles the logic and the syntax locally. But once that code is written, a human developer still has to navigate a highly complex ecosystem of DevOps.
Right, getting it online.
Right. They have to write Terraform scripts to provision cloud infrastructure. They have to configure continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines, CI/CD.
Which is awful.
It's the worst. They have to write Kubernetes manifests to ensure the application scales properly on AWS or Google Cloud. That entire deployment pipeline is notoriously fragile and deeply complex.
Yeah, I mean, you can write a brilliant piece of software on your laptop, but getting it to run reliably on the internet for 1 million concurrent users is an entirely separate engineering discipline.
Exactly. So when the sources highlight deeper integrations with cloud platforms, they are pointing toward the automation of that entire pipeline.
The whole thing.
The whole thing. Imagine a scenario in the very near future where a developer is building a new data ingestion microservice.
Okay.
They don't just use Cursor to write the Python logic. They open a prompt and say, deploy this microservice to AWS. It needs a highly available PostgreSQL database, it needs to sit behind a load balancer, and it needs auto-scaling policies triggered by CPU utilization.
So the AI doesn't just stop at the application logic.
Right. Cursor, fully integrated with the cloud provider's APIs, automatically generates the complex infrastructure as code. It spins up the testing environment, runs the integration tests, and if everything passes, it autonomously provisions the live servers and deploys the application. The IDE stops being just a text editor and becomes an automated command center for cloud architecture.
That completely collapses the distance between a raw idea and a globally scalable product. It means the developer isn't just a programmer anymore. They are a systems architect directing an automated DevOps team.
And that, right there, is the mechanism driving the $6 billion revenue projection. Because an enterprise isn't just paying for a tool that helps developers type faster. They are paying for an engine that fundamentally compresses the entire life cycle of software creation, from conception to global deployment.
Let's pull all of these threads together because we've tracked an incredible trajectory today. We started with Anysphere, a company barely 2 years old that fundamentally rejected the premise that AI should be a passive feature bolted onto legacy software.
Right.
By strategically forking Visual Studio Code, They completely bypassed user friction and built a natively integrated LLM-powered collaborative environment.
A true collaborative tool.
Right. They solved the complex engineering challenges of massive context windows and localized code base RG. And in doing so, they turned a tedious multi-week refactoring process into a natural language conversation.
They proved that AI coding is a distinct, highly lucrative market category, one that completely alters the ROI calculus for Fortune 500 enterprises.
And they backed up that category creation with a staggering $50 billion valuation, supported by a projected $6 billion revenue run rate. They secured the ultimate strategic moat by aligning with Nvidia for hardware optimization and A16s for market validation.
It's a perfect storm.
And now they are moving aggressively to integrate this localized power directly into cloud deployment pipelines, basically threatening to automate the most complex aspects of DevOps entirely. It is just a masterclass in technological leverage.
It really is a masterclass.
What?
But I want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over, one that strips away the valuations and the corporate strategy and looks purely at the human element of this whole shift.
Okay, what is it?
Well, we've spent the last hour discussing how Cursor translates natural language into complex, functional code architectures.
Yeah.
If this trajectory holds, and the machine effectively fully abstracts away the rigid syntax of traditional coding, what will the definition of a programmer actually be in 2030?
Oh, that's interesting.
If the AI handles the dependency management, the localized debugging, and the entire cloud deployment pipeline, are we rapidly approaching a reality where the most powerful and heavily recruited programming skill isn't a mastery of Rust or Python or C++ wide fetch, but simply the ability to think logically and articulate complex systems in clear, unambiguous English?
That is a profound question because it implies that the barrier to building the digital infrastructure of tomorrow won't be technical fluency at all. It will just be sheer conceptual clarity.
Exactly.
It democratizes creation while simultaneously demanding a much higher level of architectural thinking. And I guess that brings us right back to our starting point. The century-old conglomerate versus the two-year-old startup. Value is no longer just tied to physical mass or legacy scale.
No, it's not.
Sometimes $50 billion of value is generated simply by teaching a machine to finally understand us on our own terms. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the systems around you, and we will catch you next time.